Thanks to everybody for tuning in. As well, this is being recorded, so when the chat is done, I usually just take the audio file, convert it into a MP4, and then I will share it with Steven. I'll put it on my website, on my YouTube channel. I'll promote it on X. So once this is done, usually, you'll get many, many more people listening to that. I've also popped the link to your book in the replies to this. But if you have anything else you want to add, and other people can add stuff too. So that's sort of a link that will stay live until this is done.
Okay.
And it is accessible after that, though. People can still click on this. So
great.
I think I'm good. Everything sounds good, and I think we're good to go. So if you're ready, I think we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm all set.
Just a big welcome to you. This is great to have you on today. And I thought we could just start with, before we get into more specific questions, just a short bio. If you want to just tell us a few things about yourself, and then we can kind of get into some of the questions that we planned to discuss.
Sure. I'll just go over this pretty quickly. I was born in Chicago in the late 60s. I began to play drums when I was 10. I was joining bands when I was 14. I went to the University of Iowa. I went to Arizona for music engineering. While I was at school, I taught myself guitar so I could write songs. I was never able to read sheet music, but I never really tried. I played by ear, and I wrote original songs. Since then, I've been a drummer in rock bands with songs on the radio, a successful diamond dealer on Jewelers Row in Chicago, a day trader, and an executive producer on a few film projects, including a feature film, Chicago Rot, which is actually currently still on Amazon Prime right now. I co-created the Jingle Mute, a product that changed the way drummers could perform. It's been used in hundreds of songs you've probably heard, and it's endorsed by some of the most famous drummers in the world. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2012 and have had to overcome physical and mental challenges. Finally, I felt it was necessary to write my story. This book is my life. It's true. It's all me. In it, you'll see why I say there's no such thing as coincidence. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life.
That's perfect. You said so many things that I have all these side questions now.
Yeah.
But if you have anything else you want to say before I ask a question, but just letting you know that there's so many cool things that you just mentioned that I'm like, oh wow, I have so many things to say about just one thing alone was the music. That could be a whole hour.
It could be like where I'm at right now. It's because everything kind of circled around from when I was 10. And it interestingly enough goes with the book, and it's something that I did. Although I wrote a little bit about it in the book, something happened recently which kind of connected that. So it was nothing I could have ever expected, but it's unbelievable what I'm now doing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When you were, say, a kid and you were interested in music, did you ever feel pressure? When you say that you weren't into theory or the sheet music, did you ever get any critique from music teachers or, family or anything because you were doing it by ear? Because my daughter's the same way. She has dyslexia and she plays a ton of instruments, but early on theory was so hard for her, and but she's amazing. So did you ever get that kind of critique?
I did, not really from my family. I would say from the teachers. They never liked that. If I was playing percussion, which is so different than being a drummer, because you're playing a xylophone or timpani or any of that stuff. I tuned it by ear. I didn't follow the sheet music. There was sheet music. I couldn't do, like you said, the theory of it. I had to do it my way. I've done everything in life that way, and for whatever reason, I just felt everything was always easier to do myself. Although I play drums, I I still play guitar and bass, and I don't know any other instrument. I can probably pick up and just kind of start playing it.
That's cool. That's really. I'm just admire the talent. I play one instrument. I've never done that where I've but to be fair, I have never tried. So, I've never picked up multiple instruments either. So there is that piece.
But one's pretty good. One's still pretty good.
Right. Like, and I play it well. So it's like, I started when I was a kid, and I can pick it up now and still play flute. So, just you've got so many things that you mentioned there about things that you've taught, like the innovation in drumming, film, that you have that on Prime. If you want to just whatever you kind of want to elaborate on there before we kind of get into more stuff. But that intrigued me, even just the film alone. Like, what is it about? And where'd you get the idea? That kind of stuff.
Okay, so first would be my product, just because it's quick. But as a drummer, I had worked with. I was in this band for many years, in and out, and the guitarist had become my best friend, and we were writing something. And I used to a lot of drummers in the studio, at least, they'll take a tambourine and they would tape it onto their drumstick. So if there was tambourine, but there's nobody there to play it, but they want to hear it, you can literally you would tape it on your stick and play, and then when you're coming out of the chorus, typically the tambourine will go away. You kind of toss the stick aside and just grab a stick without a tambourine. So our concept was really, what if you could take a tambourine, put it on your stick, and then have a mute button on it where you could actually shut it off. And so we ended up inventing, it's the only tambourine that goes onto a stick, plays in perfect meter automatically. No matter what you're doing, it'll be in perfect meter. And when the drummer wants to shut it off, they just push down on a little lever, and it stops the sound of the jingles. It's used by so many bands. I do have a website, which is my last name, Nanberg. So if you could just go to nanberg.com, you'd actually see it used by bands like, I don't know, like John Mayer, the White Stripes, Alanis Morissette. I mean, the list goes on. And it's, for whatever reason, I love hearing it, but it's always on. It's on a lot of Grammy-winning songs. Nobody would know what it is, other than probably like me or my son. It has a different sound. It's more organic. It's not like that 1960s tambourine where it's really bright. It's actually really dark, but it gives every song such a jam. So that's been pretty successful. As far as the film, I became one of two executive producers on that after meeting the director. The movie was written by Brant McCrae and actually Dorian Weinzimmer, and I got involved in that. I don't like giving too much away, because if there's something supernatural about a story or a part of this, and there's a chapter in the book, I just don't want to say too much about it. But it's really cool. It's on Prime. It's been moving around. It's been moving up. Like we can see how the views and everything, and it's kind of like a cult film. It's out there. It's a supernatural sci-fi horror thriller. It's not jump out and scare you. There is a lot of gore. I am so not into gore, but I was there every day for the filming, and it's pretty realistic. I have some really funny stories about when they were in makeup, full makeup, running on the streets of Chicago. The police came a few times with people calling and saying there's a man with glass all over his face and he's gushing blood, and it was pretty funny, actually. But it was fun. It was fun to do. I don't. If I ever do another film project, I think it would be based off of my book. Otherwise, I don't think I would do one.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like quite a time investment.
Yeah, it was.
It'd be enormous.
It was. It's such an undertaking. I really wanted to be involved in it. I want, it's something I always wanted to do, whether act or direct. And I thought, what's the best route for me to get there at my age? And I thought I'll just start at the top and be an executive producer.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool.
So I definitely learned a lot. I learned a lot.
And the fact it was filmed in Chicago too, where you're from and everything, I think that would kind of be rewarding too, as a piece of that.
It was really cool. It was really cool.
What's the title of it? I'm putting all these links, and I've got your website in there for people to find now too. So on Prime, you said?
Yeah, it's on Prime right now. If you Google it, there's some places there won't even be a charge. It's streaming in a few different places, but Prime is for the majority of it. It's called Chicago Rot, ROT. So just Chicago Rot.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll put that up there too. Very good.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's so cool. Is there, like, the innovation you had with the drum thing and the tambourine? That sounds almost like a Shark Tank thing. Is it? Do you have exclusive rights to that, and you sell it through your website, or is there another way people can order that?
So we used to sell it through our website. We came out with it before Shark Tank was Shark Tank. There was no Shark Tank. So getting the money to do it, everything's so expensive. It had a patent. The patent was good for 20 years. I was definitely, forget that I was called. We were called by every percussion company. They wanted to license it. I think I was around 20, 25, 26 years old when we came up with it. And me and my partner flew out to the largest percussion company in the world, which was Latin Percussion at the time. And we actually, we didn't know anything about anything other than music. And here's these two young guys pitching this, multi-million-dollar company. I don't know how, I don't know if they were $1 billion company, but they were the biggest. And we did end up making a deal with them. It's just they sat on it for 2 years. They didn't do much as far as being able to produce it. And at the end of the day, we took it back from them, did it ourselves, and we got distribution through the biggest actual stick company, which is Ahead Drumsticks. And so they distribute my product now in, I think about, it's somewhere near 40 different countries. And that's where it's distributed. If you typed in or Googled the Jingle Mute, it'll come up on so many different sites to buy it. I always suggest to everyone, it's sold on some, you can easily find it for $19.99. I've seen it as high as 40 something, but I wouldn't pay 40 something for it. It's worth it. It's just, I can see it online for $19, $20. I think my favorite part about it is it doesn't matter how much money it makes or doesn't make. For me, it's just confirmation how great it is when I hear like Beck use it live. These bands are using it in their songs, and it really does change the sound of the song. And I get satisfaction kind of from that, a lot more than the money. It just wasn't about the money; it was about the art.
Exactly, and the number of people, like you said, that now are able to use it. And I just Googled it, and there's pages and pages of different, indie kind of music stores selling it, plus eBay, plus, larger stores. And it's very competitive, the pricing.
It is. It is.
Anyone who plays an instrument knows how expensive they are, right? So something like this is, if you're spending $10, $20, $30, that's nothing in the scheme of things. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my drummers laugh. These are all like the best drummers in the world. They would say to everybody, if I can make a 1 minute commercial, which there's really no, we all avoid commercials now, but when it came out, if I could have had just 1 minute and put them on there, they would all say the same thing, which would be, how could you not have this product? They all love it, and these are the pros.
That's cool. Yeah. Let's get into your book a little bit.
Sure.
That was fun, kind of promoting it the last week or two, and just kind of hearing the positive,
Yeah.
kind of feedback and stuff. There's a couple of reviews up, and you've got lots of stuff on the website just describing it. But
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of go back in time a little bit and when did you sort of decide to write this as a book? Because obviously you have all these experiences, but not everybody decides to write that, and put that down on paper and then sell it. So how did that whole process come about? And then we can kind of go back to some of the experiences that you had.
I would say it kind of came about in like an instant. I was never thinking I'm going to write a book. It had never entered my mind. I would say the only thing that I knew from the time that I was younger, and as I was getting older, different things were happening to me. I was doing things which we can talk about in a little bit when you are asking me about it. But I was able to do things that personally I don't think I should be able to do. And I would talk about it with my friends. My friends all would see it. My kids would see it. And it's just I never planned on writing a book. I can't say why I wrote this book. It's in the book, and it's kind of a big part. Like it's kind of like blowing the whole. It would be blowing up the book if I said, okay, well, it's this is why I ended up writing the book. Whatever I would say this: it was a culmination of so many things for so many years, and then it led up to this one event that took place that blew my mind. And I literally was in my car. I shut the car, and I sat in silence for about 30 minutes, and I decided right then and there what the best thing for me to do would be, and that would be to write a book. And in writing the book, I think this was the hardest project I ever took on. Although I wanted to write the book, I really thought it would make for a great film, my life. And I know a lot of people definitely have great lives, and they're different. We're all different. But as far as my stories go, everything's real, everything's true. Even when I was writing it, I had a coach. She'd get upset with me sometimes, only because I would not change anything. I wouldn't change anything that happened. I wouldn't change the story. And it's just I had to have it exact. So my book is really written. It's chronologically, and that's kind of. I didn't even know when I was going to write it I was going to do it that way, but it just so happened that as I was writing it, I would say about halfway through, I was like, wow. I'm like, in order for me to tell this story, it really does begin when I was young and ends up, in 2018 when when this thing happened to me that should have never happened. I'll tell you, it's that big that I know a lot of people only because of what I do. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I'm not arrogant. I'm not narcissistic. I just I didn't want to tell anybody what had happened to me. I really thought I was going to be judged. I really thought, okay, how do you tell people, something so big and get them to look at you without saying, hey man, are you doing drugs? Like, you got to get off that stuff. But I don't do any I don't do any drugs other than I take medication for MS. I don't even drink alcohol. But things have been happening to me for years, and it's building. It's still building today. New things seem to just keep happening that are not even in the book. After I wrote the book, there's just some other stuff that started happening, and it's happened more than once. It's happened, it just I don't know when it's going to happen really, but it just shows up. It shows up.
And I was going to say, you mentioned the date 2018, which I mean isn't that long ago, but when these things are happening that you're mentioning, or kind of alluding to, after 6-7 years, you're going to need another book, because it's almost like there's so many things that people will be intrigued about that you kind of left it at a certain point, published the book, and then now there's going to be other stuff, and that could almost be either a second one, or like you said, a TV series or something, something where there's ongoing episodes and you're constantly writing the material. I find that interesting that you didn't want to change anything. But I respect that. I think that you wanted that to be authentic and true. And, maybe the coach was thinking more, let's fictionalize it. Let's embellish, or let's delete, stuff. But I think you stayed true to it. Was there a reason why you felt it really had to be like that? You didn't want to go down that path of making it into a fiction story?
Only because my life reads like fiction. So the book reads like fiction. It kind of reads like science fiction. So I didn't feel that there was a need for that. And then I never wanted to be questioned. Like, did that really happen, or did that really occur? So I felt the best thing to do is just be 100% transparent, 100% honest about whatever these stories, are. And each story is 100% accurate. I wouldn't change the littlest of the littlest thing. And it's interesting. I on my website, I really didn't think, for me, when it came out, I would have been happy if, I don't know, 2 people bought it, other than like a couple of my friends. You don't really know who's going to buy it, but it's actually doing quite well. And I'm getting emails, and one of the emails I just received, it said they can't wait for the next book. And I read that and I was like, this is kind of about my life. Like, I can't have a different life, but I guess there could be a part 2 if I really wanted, and just kind of move on from what's happened since. And it's pretty, there's a couple wow factors, but I don't think it's big enough yet. I do think it's, I talked to a couple different production companies. So I am kind of moving that way, but they would like to see it in some more like mom and pop type stores, other than it's sold everywhere. I mean, if you're typing my supernatural life or my name, it doesn't matter what country. I just noticed it yesterday, selling for $60 something. I don't know who would pay that, once again, but it's not that much money. It's $29.99 for the hard copy, maybe $21 for a paperback. But you could also buy it just online, which is like $9.99. That seems to be where most of the sales are coming from, except for the book collectors who like to have an actual hard copy. I purposely designed the cover as well, and the covers, it was very important that the cover was designed really how my feelings were, and the cover of the book, it did come out. For me, it came out perfect. It kind of, if you read the book, the cover makes a lot of sense.
I was going to say too, when we first started chatting and I said what inspired it, you didn't want to give it away, but are you willing to talk about you talk about willing things into reality and stuff like that? Are you willing to give an example or two for the listeners, even if you don't give away sort of the major inspiration?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the things that I could do, and then you can ask me about any of them. Because there's a few things that I'll do. So willing things into reality, that is just that's a strange one. I would say I'm about 70%, 75% accurate if I want something to happen. Where do I go for that though? I'm not sure. I believe in a higher energy. I believe in God, but even with, if God is God, I don't picture some man with a white beard and white hair above. I think there's an energy that we're all experiencing. I just think some people have more of an open channel. I have a very open channel, and I'm just it is what it is with that. I can do some telepathy. Um, this will be a weird one, but I get messages from people that have passed away. This has happened to me 6 times. They're not they're not in my I'm not dreaming them. I am always told in every single one of them what to say to somebody, and thank God some of these people are famous. I do have Emmy winners in my book, Grammy winners, pro athletes, besides my friends and family. So for me, it was important for credit to the book that I have famous people literally going and giving me credit to what I did. And I will say, talking to people that passed away is my most unfavorite part of being able to do some of these things. I really don't like it. I'll deliver the message. I never know what that message is. Like, they never mean anything to me. Like, they're not like 2 + 2 = 4. They give me some type of message. I'll then go to the person that they're telling me to tell this to, thinking, all right, I wonder what the heck this is going to mean. And it's amazing. It's amazing to watch how they react after I give it, and then I'll be like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what did that even mean to you? And when they tell me, it's pretty cool. As far as when you asked about willing things into reality, that's a tough one. That's really, I actually say in the book, if I told my family some of these things which have occurred, they might not be too happy with me. And that has to do with, I guess I can give you like one it won't ruin anything. It's not in the book whatsoever. My son's in Indiana for AI engineering. He got a full ride scholarship. He's an Evans scholar, and he's big into making money, which is great. He started when he was in 7th grade and did it through graduating high school, and he was a 4.0 student. Mac is very serious. Mac does not believe in God. Mac believes in science. And although that's where he is, he still comes to me. Like, he'll be like, Dad, if you can you just shoot one of those things up that you do? I need this. So although he'll say he doesn't believe, he does ask me for favors. And this would be willing things into reality. And I'll tell you the last one I did for him. Well, there's two, actually, two good ones. One would be, he really wanted to caddy this one day. The way caddying works where he's at, everything's online, everything's through an app. There were no loops, which a loop is, you're going to take 18 holes. When Mac is an honors caddy, which means he typically will take 4 golfers at once. So he's really, it's pretty amazing. But this one day he had nothing to do and he got no loops. I was standing at the top of my stairs and he says, Dad, can you shoot that thing up, and I want to work today, and there's no loops. I said, all right. When I got down to the bottom step, I just heard, thanks, Dad. And so it's kind of like that. I pretty much just asked that he get a loop. and it's that fast that he did it. The very last thing I did, I don't want my friends that might be listening to hear it, because I already told them I won't do it for them again. I get asked a lot of questions about gambling. A lot of my friends want me to let them know who's going to be winning whatever game they're betting on. Betting so big, they've made it so easy. I get tons of calls for, who do I think is going to win this game, and for I don't know, 15 years I've been telling people I'm not going to give you this out. Like, this is not what it's not for that. I've been given a gift. I didn't ask for it, but I definitely been given a gift, and I don't use it for gambling. I typically only use it for helping people. I think that's what it's for, but I don't think it's for helping people gamble. But this last Super Bowl, for whatever reason, I went up to Indiana to watch it with Mac, and although I already knew who was going to win the game, I wasn't betting that much on it. My best friend from when I was young sends me a photograph. He's a 9-time Emmy winner. He's on ESPN. Before that, he was on ABC and Fox, and he's at the Super Bowl, and he snaps a picture with Andy Reid, the Chiefs head coach, and he doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing when he's sending it to me. He's just joking around, but he sends me a photo of him and Andy Reid, and it says right underneath it, he puts, "I wouldn't bet against this big guy." Okay, he said that as a joke, but for me, it was no joke. And so I decided, just because of all the years I've been asked, that just kind of confirmed. I felt more than 70%. I felt 100%. Chiefs are going to win it. And right when I thought that, they asked for prop bets. A prop bet would be, the goofy bets, like who's going to get the first touchdown, what's the flip of the coin going to be. I don't follow football. I should say that I don't follow any sports. I'm not into sports. I don't like them. I think if gambling wasn't allowed, there'd probably be no sports. But it's really adults playing kids' games, and so I don't follow it. With that being said, I sent a text to all my friends saying, here's a prop bet, where you can take two things that'll push up your money, but take Christian McCaffrey to score first and take the Chiefs. Christian McCaffrey was not on the Chiefs. He was on the 49ers. That just came to me, and I put it out there. It did happen. That's who scored first, and the Chiefs did win. And I actually didn't get a lot of friendly texts for whatever reason. My friends, even though they've been asking me for so long to give them something, I finally gave it to them, and only Anthony answered it, meaning only Anthony took the bet. So Anthony won it, I won it, and Mac, of course, won it. And it was in the thousands, and it was great. Otherwise, I don't usually. I think that's my only bet every year is the Super Bowl. Just makes it a little funner.
I think it's really interesting, the reaction that you described, because, and your son too, just the fact that these people, they believe. I mean, it's clear from them asking you, your son, even though he says he doesn't, the fact that he reaches out. So I think it's that piece of people in general. They don't want to believe that they're not in control fully. When they know that somebody else can do that, maybe they can't. So there's just that maybe it's human to doubt or to want to see tangible proof all the time. Whatever it is, clearly they believe it, because otherwise they wouldn't reach out and ask. So I think that's really cool how it shows deep down the connection you have with these people too, though. And they trust you. They trust that, that's something that you'll use it for a positive thing too. But yeah, that's a really neat story, and with your son too. Do you call it in the book? You mentioned that people refer to it as a miracle. Do you use that word, or is that like, how do you kind of define the whole thing? What words do you usually label it with?
So miracle came up. Miracle came up when I was getting every chapter I have testimonials. If there's something, I think there's 26 chapters. Only 2 chapters don't have something that's supernatural. It's more something about my life, and there's not anything really like in it about that. But every other chapter, if I'm going to write something that has something that happened that just should not happen, or I shouldn't really be able to do it, I always have a testimonial from whoever witnessed it with me. And in that last chapter, I had 2 witnesses that were with me during it, and it was just a crazy night. And when he wrote his testimonial, he wrote, it had to have been a miracle. And then I kind of went back and I thought about a lot of things that I had done, and I really don't know if I would call them a miracle. I think I always just wonder, like, how did I just do that, or did that just happen? Since writing the book, I don't, like, when I say there's more things happening, those might be more miracle. I tried not too long ago healing. Somebody was in a lot of pain for years, and I don't know why I even said anything. I just said, let me see your leg and your knee. Let me see your knee, and I put my hand on the kneecap, and I can tell you that was right around 5 months ago. That person had pain every night for 12 or 13 years, and the pain is now gone. So I don't know. I've done a few of those now since doing that, and I don't know if I would call. I mean, for me, if anything, that would probably be a miracle in my, like. That would, yeah, I'd probably call that a miracle. I don't know why.
I think so. That word sounds pretty apt, right, for that.
It does.
Yeah. Especially somebody who was in chronic pain for the length of time you mentioned. It's not, have you, I work in an office, I teach, and then in our office, there's probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 of us have desks in there, and they go and see mediums regularly. I never have. But some of what you're describing when you said that you don't like the fact that you can communicate with people who have passed, but it sounds like that whole, what mediums have that connection, like you said, to sort of a different, it's just a different energy almost. Do you feel that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only reason I don't like it, it's a responsibility. It's such a big responsibility to take on these messages and have to go tell, like if it hasn't happened where I've told somebody something and they look at me like I'm nuts. That has not happened. It's the opposite. They're thanking me and they're crying, and I just get worried that I just don't want to ever bring anything bad to anybody. That all the messages have been positive. I don't want to get that message that's not positive, and have to go to somebody and say something. So that's the only thing it's such a responsibility. As far as willing things into reality, that's also a tough one, because I actually, sometimes I have to kind of turn my brain off and not think about something because I really don't want something to happen. And so you have to kind of fight this thing in your brain that's kind of, telling you something, and you really don't want it to happen. So you kind of have to, I would say, I kind of have to shut it down and not concentrate on it at all. Like, I'll be like, like race cars. baseball, just anything other than the thing that's shooting in my head. And, as I'm talking right now, and I'm not really stuttering, I just, my book is with me right now, and I'm trying not to say anything that's in it, even though there's some cool stuff. There's one more thing from the book I'd probably want to say, that doesn't ruin anything. It's pretty cool, just because it's where I'm at right now. And when I was 10, and I think I started playing drums technically when I was 8. But when you don't start with a drum set typically. You'll start learning just to use the sticks, and you'll have a drum pad, but not a drum kit. I always liked the drums. I was taken to a concert when I was 10. It was a Buddy Rich concert. Buddy Rich at the time was considered one of the, probably the best drummer of all times. His best friend was Frank Sinatra. He ran with the Rat Pack. He was on Johnny Carson hundreds of times, which was the Tonight Show when I was a kid. And he was considered the best drummer of all times. And I was 10. When I left that concert, it was a jazz concert. I left there, and I knew at that moment I want to be a drummer. Like, that's it. That's all I cared about. And as I grew up, and as I went to high school and college, and I never stopped playing. And then after college, when I was in rock bands, playing out, and playing all over. The one thing that was always difficult was if you don't gain traction, and you're not going to get out of the main city you're from, you're not going to make too much money. And for whatever reason, I didn't have the support. I didn't have it really from my family. I had some support from my younger brother, but not from my parents. So that's how I ended up getting into other things, whether it was diamonds or other things that I did. But in the book was finished before this happened, what I'm about to say. And in the book, I mentioned, I'm thanking everybody that I got to play with. And that could have been with, I got to play drums for Lenny Kravitz once. I got to play with a lot of people. And for whatever reason, this had to do with my jingle mute, but I brought up Buddy Rich. And I brought up when I was 10 years old, that was the first album I ever bought. And I mentioned his grandson, Nick Rich, what an amazing drummer he is. And I'm not even sure why I put this little paragraph in there. And anyway, so I'm done with the book, and I get a phone call. I get a text message from Nick, his grandson. His grandson knew me from about 20 years ago from my product, and he sends me this music video, and it says Brooklyn Rich, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool name for a band. And I watched the video, and I'm like, man, this is solid. And I text him back, and I'm like, hey, great name for a band. Give me a call. And he calls me up literally right when I texted to him, and he says, Steven, Brooklyn Rich is in a band. And I'm like, oh, what's Brooklyn Rich? He's like, that's my son. I'm like, oh. So I was asked to be part of, after all of these years, after wanting to just be in the music industry, I am now with Nick and another partner. We are launching this 18-year-old phenom who is unbelievable. He is about to blow up the music industry. and we're working with the best producer in the UK. And he is his music is incredible. It's different than anything. When I play it for people, I don't even tell them what I'm doing. I'm just like, you got to hear this song. The names that come up that people think that he sounds like, everyone's like, oh, he sounds like this person or that person. They just will say to me, what genre is this? And I've given up trying to answer that. I just say, it's Brooklyn's. It's his genre, because every song it's so original and so amazing that for me, to be part of this, it's a blessing. It's like it all circled around from the time I was 10 years old, and now at 57, I'm actually working with Buddy Rich's great grandson, and I don't know what to say about that. Like, for me, I wouldn't call a miracle, but I'd say it's pretty freaking unbelievable that it all circled back to that after all these years.
There's no way, like people say, well, it's a coincidence or whatever, but no, because like every detail of that had to be just perfectly in line for it to all come together. And the fact that you were even writing about it, thinking about it, it's that whole willing it, all of that had to happen in order for that moment. And even the text message and the fact that, you know, you didn't even know that it was a person. Right?
No. I just thought that's a great name for the band.
Exactly.
I'm thinking, Brooklyn is in New York. But you're right, exactly what you just said. Everything always has to line up perfect. And, in some of the chapters, it's kind of like I'm proving why this isn't a coincidence. And I really ask people that read the book, go back in your life and think about, have you had anything happen, which most of us have. The simplest one would be, I know this happens to everybody, which is, I would say it's like level 1. And if there's 10 levels, I'm probably at level 7 or 8. But at level 1, we all get that call, or we call someone and they're like, oh, I was just going to call you. We've all done that. That's an energy. That's not a coincidence. That's probably the most simple one that there is. And I'd say all of us have done it. And it's just one of those things where, I say, most people just brush that aside as they use the word coincidence. And they use the word coincidence because no one really wants to, I think, deep dive into how did that just happen? Why did that just happen? And even my brother, my younger brother, very judgmental. He's very judgmental. I love him. I love him so much. I expected from him to get. I expected for him, once I was done with the manuscript, which I didn't even tell him I was writing it, I expected him to rip on me. Doesn't matter what happened between us. I just expected him to say, Stephen, you can't put this book out. Don't do this. But he didn't do that. It was actually the opposite. He read it literally that night. He read the whole book one sitting, and he called me and he said, "There's only one thing I don't like." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not bad." And I'm like, "What? What's the one thing?" And he said, "I'm not in it." And I thought that was pretty amazing. And I, of course, asked him if anything happened between us ever that shouldn't have happened. And he couldn't think of anything. I didn't have anything. And he asked me if he could write the foreword. And I said, sure. So he wrote the foreword to the book. And for me, that was, I know when I read it, my tears were just pouring out of my eyes. I shrunk it up a little bit, what he wrote. It was just too long, but I didn't change anything that's in there. I didn't change any words. I just clipped some stuff out. It was just, it was like 3 pages. So I shortened it up, but I read the book last night. I was reading a couple chapters. Someone asked me, friends will say, can I just read it to them? it's one of those strange things, and I have to stop for a second. I get so emotional. I get very emotional. One of my friends, he was in my high school band. I had a few different bands, but he was in my main high school band. I hadn't spoken to him in 40 years. He had to have seen it on Facebook, like, maybe a friend through a friend. I don't even know, but I get a message from him after 40 years, and he said, "I just read your book on a flight from, he was flying somewhere for work, and he just said, I read half of it on the way there, half on the way back." And he's like, "Steven, I felt like I was just with you for 3 days." And that for me was such a compliment, coming from someone after 40 years. And he played with the Grateful Dead for 10 years as a guitarist. So, it's pretty cool that I got to, these people that I played with. I didn't know that they would keep, they would all still be in the music industry. One of the guys I was in a band with, he actually did the score for a movie called Dummy, but it was actually about a dummy, where people hold the little doll. It was Adrian Brody's first film, and Mike did the score for it. So somehow I've been connected to all these people that, they're out there, and they're out there also playing with, other famous people. Some of them have Grammy awards, and it's pretty cool. That was a really cool conversation. The one with John, and John was the one that was played with the Grateful Dead. The funniest thing about that was, I remember when we were playing, we didn't play any Grateful Dead. I hated the Grateful Dead. I hate to use that word hate, but I disliked the Grateful Dead. But we played songs that nobody played. They were very tough songs. We weren't just playing and I love the Beatles. I love John Lennon. The Beatles are always the easiest songs to play, or the Who or whoever. But we were playing bands that we shouldn't. We were playing music from a little tougher rock bands, and I don't know. It's all good stuff.
The stuff that you mentioned with all this interconnectedness with these people that maybe you hadn't even seen for a while, and then you come in contact with them, and your brother's reaction, just everyone's reaction to this is sort of blowing me away, because I'm thinking your brother seemed, like you said, so resistant to accepting that this, you said he was critical, but yet he was clearly moved by it. So it reminds me, again, going back to these people who doubt, there's still this piece of them that does truly believe there's something greater. And when they see this in you, it brings out that emotion. It brings out that belief or connection. So I think that's really awesome that you wrote the book, and then you can then have those conversations that maybe you wouldn't before, because until you've got that, you've got all these thoughts and things that are happening, but maybe you wouldn't share this with everybody. So that's kind of neat. Have you found that your relationships have changed with anybody since kind of going public with it? I know you would have shared this with really close friends, but what about extended family and stuff like that?
Yeah, my aunt, my mother's sister, was always into philanthropy. She became the national president of Hadassah, which is they raise money for it's the largest Jewish I don't know what they call it, but they raise money. She raised the money to build the hospital in Jerusalem. So they're raising hundreds of millions of dollars. My aunt is she's not a social climber, but my aunt is in that socialite circle of very wealthy people, and she's not wealthy, but that's who she runs with. But she also, and I put her testimonial in there, I don't want anyone to be like, oh, this is his crazy Aunt Bonnie. But she's far from it. Her pictures in the book are with Benjamin Netanyahu, Ariel Sharon, Nancy Reagan, George Bush. Like, I put like 8 photos in there with politically. She worked with Congress, Senate. So she's kind of up there in what she does with her fundraising, and it's with the top of the top. So when I called her about the book, I was very nervous. You know, I had my relationship with her was, you know, we would talk a few times a year, not that much, and I called her to tell her I wrote this book, and I was a goofball. I was not the type of person that would write a book. So when I called her and I told her I did this, I just said, you know, don't think I'm crazy or anything, but here's what I wrote and here's what it's about. My aunt shot it right back at me and said, well, why would I think it's crazy? And I'm like, what? And she said, do you not remember what happened with you and I? And I didn't. And then she reminded me, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I was already done with the manuscript. I had to add it, so I added the chapter with my aunt. And I said to her, "I said, is this going to be a problem? You know, because of who you work with?" And she said, "No, it's not a problem. She's like, I'm gonna, you know, send me the manuscript. I'd like to read it." And you know, she did, and she had no problem. She said she was going to buy it for every one of her friends, and I've been much closer with her since writing it. I'd say I talk to her every week now, so I have a great relationship with her now, and I would say that's because of the book. My relationship with my younger brother, is great, but they both said the same thing, which is, you know, they're kind of going back in time, where my brother says, you know, things that he just brushed off as a coincidence. Now he's kind of looking at it differently, and I definitely would say, you know, there's a couple negatives from writing a book like this. Is it's unfortunate, but you'll kind of realize that, in my life at least, you know, some of the people that I thought were friends, I don't know. They probably, I think they more used me than anything else. You know, whether it was for tickets or, you know, they wanted to meet somebody. I don't know. I think you find out like who's your friend and who's really not your friend. So when you're writing a memoir, to begin with, I think most memoirs are written by famous people, because I'm not famous, even though I work with a lot of famous people. I'm not famous, so it's very not normal to write a memoir, not being famous, unless you want to do it just to write it and know that you wrote a book. I would say I don't think many people are going to buy it if they don't know who you are. That's what I'm fighting right now. That's that's the hill I'm climbing. I don't want to fail in this. I put a lot of time. This took so long to do, and I have not got a bad review from, and I've given it to, not given it to, they bought it, but one of my friends in the book, he's one of the largest diamond wholesalers in the United States. His clients are all millionaires and billionaires. He bought, I just got a text from him. He bought 50 copies. He's sending it to all of them, and I've already gotten their comments back that they gave him, and it's pretty impressive. I don't want to name the families that he sent it to, but everyone's heard of them. it's kind of like Chase Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase, names like that. Not that name, but it's names like that are reading it now. And for me, it's very humbling to know that not only are they reading it, but the comments they're writing back are so nice and so genuine about me, and that's pretty cool.
I was going to say, you kind of, I mean, we veered into a bit of marketing talk, but that's cool because, how do you get the book into those hands is the biggest challenge, right? It's always the biggest challenge because you write this great thing. Everybody who's reading it is positive. They're moved by it. It's bringing the family closer. Other people are seeing their own experiences in it. It's just, it's this great thing, but it's like, how do you get somebody to take a chance on it? And I think word to mouth is great. Like you said, you have these people who do have connections, but how do you then sort of utilize that? And I think all of us who write, that's the biggest challenge. And I think, you've started to hit on some of maybe the ideas of in-person marketing where you're chatting with them or you're a phone call and then they physically give the book out as gifts or offer it at their companies. Those are some cool ideas of not doing it the traditional way.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm lucky that, the people that are in the book are famous. I think they like that they're in the book. Like, they like their story. Do you know what I mean? Like, the story is really, it's a really interesting story for most of them. But as much as I'm not, I'm not one to, say, oh, I'm so great. I don't walk around doing that. That doesn't mean the people in the book that I'm writing about, that doesn't mean they're not like that. So for me, I never knew that was going to happen, but I think there's 4 famous people in this book that all told me they're buying it because they want their friends to read it. But I don't know if they want, I think some of that is they want them to read it because they're in the book. So if that helps me, so be it. It is the hardest thing. When I was writing it, I had no clue that the marketing was going to be as hard as it is. I'm doing a couple of book signings, and those are coming up. And what I'm doing differently is I'm actually bringing. I have a pro boxer. He's in the. He just got. He just went into the Hall of Fame. He fought the undercard for Mayweather Pacquiao. That was the biggest fight in the history of boxing. I did a TV show. That was just another reality. That was another thing that I did in film, and we became really close. But he's coming to one of my book signings, so they're advertising that he'll be there. And then, there's some other people in the book that have offered, would you like me to come to a book signing? So it's a little bit different. So as far as just me going and sitting there and nobody knowing who I am.
Yeah, to have that person or people organize the event, for example. Even you mentioned your aunt. I mean, that might be too close of a relationship, but just someone like that where they run in different circles. And so each of these people could then, bring the book to a different demographic, a different group, rather than just sitting in, a store, a Barnes and Noble or something, and, at a table. This way you have that kind of more of an event. And I'm picturing even like renting out some space or something, a small little venue, or combine it with something else that you're doing, and you're in the lobby of a concert or something, like actually just outside the box. And I don't know what that would look like, but that you're giving me ideas. It's just what can you do that just shakes it up a bit, so it's not the same old kind of marketing. It's very cool.
I mean, and even my aunt, I wasn't even sure, I of course said to her, can you write some type of testimonial? I never told anybody what to write. I would be like, I wrote a book, you're in one of the chapters, it's about this. That's it. Write me whatever you think. My aunt actually wrote something that I had no clue. She wrote, Stephen had a sixth sense from the time he was a little boy. I read that and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I called her immediately. I said, how come nobody ever told me this? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, Stephen, she's like, your mom used to always say, you're not you're weird, although she might have said that, but she would just use the word weird. I would do something and my mom would say weird. So, so my aunt kind of touched on that a little bit. And
They almost didn't have the word for it. They didn't know.
No.
They didn't know what it
Correct.
was, but it was something that not everyone possesses. So that's classified as weird, but
Right.
that's clearly some kind of different energy that they were noticing, or different abilities, maybe a different way of expressing, the day-to-day stuff that you were experiencing or seeing, but they just characterize it as weird because it's sort of dismissive, but maybe too weird can frighten people. Or make them feel uncomfortable if they can't explain it. So then they can use that as a catch-all word.
I would say a lot of the times it was dismissive. That is what it was. So that's how I would feel. If my mom would say that, it was more like, for me it wasn't weird. Do you know what I mean? For me it was, this is what happened. It's like, it happened right in front of you. It's not weird.
Exactly. I mean, the first few times, maybe I don't know, was it startling? Yeah. Like, did it surprise you or shock you a little bit? Or did you always just kind of take it in stride that this is just my life?
I would say more like, this is my life. I know the first things that were happening were balance and really strange. Like, I was a kid. I had two brothers. Brothers fight. So we do very bad things, and when we're young. And this one wasn't such a bad thing, but I whipped a key at my brother, just a house key, and he was in the kitchen, I was in the family room. I whipped the key at him. The key bounced off a few things, and it landed on its side. And my brother called. I didn't know. My brother's like, "Can you come in here a second?" And I go in the kitchen. I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Look down." And there was the key sitting on the side that you couldn't balance it like that if you tried. So that started when I was young. It still happens to this day. I take photos. So I've been taking photos. There's a number that follows me. It's my address from when I was a kid, 734. I'm not into numerology. I don't really that's for me. I never really looked much into it. But that number follows me everywhere. I see it everywhere. And when I say everywhere, not on my phone, it's 734 twice a day. It's strange things, like if I was to go onto my phone and see what time did my son get to the golf course, the phone it'll tell me. I have the tracking app. He likes that I have it. He's older now, but he still likes it. I can still see where he's at. But one morning I just happened to look at it, and what time did he arrive? 7:34. I go to sell a stock. What did I get? 7,340. Like that 734 order. I see it every week in places that I shouldn't see it. It's kind of like if you say at the butcher, can I get a pound of, whatever you're getting, and you're asking for a pound. That's half pound. That's how everybody orders. I'll have a half a pound of turkey. Sometimes they go over. Sometimes they go under. I get that, and then I look at the price. It's $7.34. So it's more things that shouldn't be there. But with numbers, I definitely have that number following me, and my balance. I have some wild photos that are just they're photos where you couldn't do it by placing it there. You'd have to have glue. So I don't know how that happens, but I get a kick out of it.
I think half of it is almost just being willing to notice stuff, being really observant, being really aware, and people walk through life so unaware and just on autopilot. And I think the difference that you're saying is that maybe these things are there for more people than we know, but they're just not paying attention. And so maybe these numbers are there, or maybe these experiences, but they just don't tap into that at all, or they disregard it. They're too busy or too stressed. So there's that piece as well. We're going to wrap it up soon, so that when I edit this, the longer it makes it difficult to then edit into a video. But just final, what's your next goal? What do you hope to do? What's your next sort of project or goal? And anything you want to finish with would be great.
I would say my next project is my current one with Brooklyn. So Brooklyn Rich, we started a record label. I think he's going to be well known in the world. This is my project with his father and with a friend of mine, and we'll be recording in London in February, and this is easily the biggest thing I've ever done. So I think I'm really excited to do that. And I'll just say this one last thing: I've never had a resume. I've never had an alarm clock. For me, I feel that's everything kind of just falls into my lap. And this Brooklyn Rich with Nick Rich. It's the most exciting, and it's the most, it's what I always wanted to do, and I think it'll be the last thing that I do, as far as I'm doing it with the best of the best, with someone that's already in the music industry. Everybody knows him, so for me, it's really, I'm ending on a high note here for that.
I was going to say that it sounds like the ultimate. If you're going to pick one thing to be the final, this sounds like you're going out with the ultimate. Yeah,
it is. As far as my MS, I'm doing really good with that. I feel if that's the worst thing I get, that'd be great. For me, I'm doing well, and I'm pretty healthy, so I'm pretty.
Good.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm excited to go to London. I can't say the names because we don't have the contracts yet, but some of the people that will be playing on the album, everybody knows. Like, everybody knows these people, whether it's a guitarist or a bass player, they're involved. So it's the coolest thing. But more than that, I'll be in a private studio. Right now we're looking at, I could say it's Peter Gabriel's studio in London. That's probably where we'll be recording it. If not there, it's another amazing studio, and it's going to be fun to be in there in such a private setting. Will I sit down on the drums and play? Oh yeah, like I can't wait. But the funniest thing is, Nick is probably in the top 3. He's probably in the top 3 drummers in the world right now. And I've already told him when I play, he needs to go out. I'm not going to play in front.
You don't want to do that in front of him.
No way. But it's kind of a funny conversation we always have. But no, to watch him is amazing. To watch that kind of skill. I could play most things. Nick is also a phenom, and he's on the top of one of the best drummers in the world. So I'm just excited to do it with them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The whole thing. Yeah. That's great. Well, thanks so much for joining me I will, edit this up and send
Sure.
you a copy, and I'll market it on X and put it on my website and stuff too. So hopefully that helps get some more readers to the book and,
Yeah. Thank
to
you.
your website as well.
Thank you so much for that. And this has been a great call.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.